Okay, so I did the heaven and hell dreams, and now this one right here is going to be basically my testimony, which when I was going to church at a Darby Creek church, and I think it was in Hilliard, the pastor there, oh gosh, what was his name? I want to say Charlie or something like that. But anyways, he just told me to try to get like my my testimony down to like under a minute. So I remember I was like writing it up, and I was trying to do like past, present, and future or something like that. But so I'll just try to hurry up and just give you like the gist of it. So I was born in Miami, Florida, and my sister was me and my sister both come from the same parents. So my mother, on my birth certificate, it said my mother was from Honduras and that my father was from Chiapas, Mexico. But years and years later, when I linked up with my grandmother, she was like making fun of me because I have a Honduras tattooed here, a Mexico tattooed here. And she's like, why do you got Honduras tattooed on you? Your mom's not from Honduras. And I'm like, well, how do I know? Because I never met my mother, and that's what my birth certificate says. So I grew up with a lot of mystery in my life, not knowing a lot about anything. Like, I just remember, my dad came from Miami, Florida to Zanesville, Ohio, and he was dating a lady named Roxanne, and I was always with her. And my dad was never around because he worked a lot. And I remember she complained a lot about basically having to babysit me and watch me, and it was a strained relationship. And I do remember that my mother did call that number, and she didn't understand what my mom was saying because my mom spoke Spanish and she didn't. Roxanne didn't. And so my dad talked to her, and it was a big argument. And next thing I know, Roxanne got the number changed. And I remember I had a wiener dog at that time, and Roxanne put it to sleep because she was tired of, taking care of the puppy and me. So these are just like memories that I remember. Like, of course, I don't hold no grudges against anybody now, because I feel like now at 40 years old, like I finally get what everything is about, what life is about. And it took me a long time. But anyways, just to fast forward through everything, I didn't meet my sister till she was like 6 or 7 years old. I think she was like 6 and I was 5. Actually, she's 2 years older than me, because technically her birth certificate says she was born in November 78 and I was born in January 79. That's impossible, because if a woman has a baby in November and the water breaks, how's it possible for another baby to stay alive in her womb for the rest of November, December, and then in January that baby's born? It's impossible. And so my sister swears that, she's only 41, but technically she's 42. And sorry to burst her bubble, but that's just what my grandmother told me. And the reason my grandmother's so sure about it is because she told me they manipulated her birth certificate, because once my dad took me and came to Ohio, my grandmother took my mother and my sister to Mexico, back to Mexico. And my dad was a runaway. He ran away from home in Mexico because when his mother died, my grandfather remarried and had another girlfriend or whatever, and she was like the evil stepmom, and my dad didn't gel well with her, so he ran away. Plus, like, everybody in my family and my dad's side of the family at that time, like my uncles, all of his brothers, my grandfather's children, sons and daughters, they wore like business suits and wore like business attires, and they carried themselves in that manner. And my dad was the artist, and he had like the bell bottoms with the flower shirt unbuttoned all the way down. He was like John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. So that can give you an image. That's how my dad was. So you can imagine when he came to Zanesville, Ohio, and like the culture there was John Deere hats and cowboy boots, and it was just way different. So he definitely faced a lot of persecution, I would say. You know, plus he was a minority. He didn't speak English well, and that was like and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it was like a country, like redneck type of town. So I don't even know if redneck is like slang, but I hope not, but I didn't mean it that way. But so you can just imagine he got picked on a lot because he did not fit in that area. So it was very uncomfortable for him. But he started venturing out, and he realized Columbus was like a bigger city, and he knew that he would fare well, he would do better in Columbus. So even though he was working a lot, and like when he worked, he'd be gone for like 6 months to a year. So he was gone for a long time. It wasn't like he was just gone for a couple of days. He was gone for months at a time. And that was my whole childhood. Bouncing around from one of his girlfriends to the other girlfriend, or from one household to another household, one babysitter to another babysitter. I did meet my sister when she was like 6 and I was like 5. I didn't know who she was. I just know my dad was gone. He came back from Mexico. There was a girl sitting on his lap. They were speaking Spanish. I seen her. I'm like, who's that? I was very jealous because I was happy that my dad was back, but I wasn't happy that there was another kid that he was paying attention to. And so when I came out of the bedroom and I seen that my dad was there with this girl on his lap, I got, I don't even know how to describe it because I was a kid, but I think I was scared because I seen her and my dad said something to her in Spanish, like, oh, that's your brother, go meet him or go play with him. And I ran back into the bedroom and hid under the bed. And then she ran into the bedroom and she hid under the bed too. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm hiding from her. So like I had to crawl out from under the bed to try to get away from her, and then we were just playing and stuff like that. So that was the first time I met my sister, you know, and it was cool. She was like my best friend, and I loved her, you know. I still love her. She's my sister. But anyways, so my dad, you know, he was very uncomfortable there, and Roxanne and her family were very accusatory towards him. And so he moved to Columbus, and he couldn't always get a babysitter to babysit me and my sister. So sometimes he had to divide us up into two different households, you know. And he didn't like that because my sister was a young girl and she did get molested and raped, you know. She didn't say it right away because she was a kid, but it surfaced later, you know. But it was something she held in, and it really bothered me. It actually hurt me. I felt like it hurt me more than it hurt her, you know what I mean? Because it just sucks, you know, if you're little kids like that, and, you know, you're with a single parent. And, you know, later on in life, early on in life, I was really upset with my dad because he never told us anything about our mom or our family or nothing. It was like a complete mystery. It was like, it's just me, deal with it, you know. But we would always ask my dad, you know, and I don't know what prompted us to ask him. Maybe it was the Holy Spirit, you know, so he would try to do the right thing. But, you know, when I finally reconnected with my family on my mother's side, I'll get to that in a minute. My dad it was around 2007. He came over to my apartment and he was just bawling. He was crying. It hurt him so bad. And it was weird for me to see that because I didn't see no emotions from him my whole life. So in 2007, which was, let's see, that was like 12 years ago. So 12 years ago, I was 28, 28 years old. You know, you're 28 and you're like, wow, I didn't see any of this emotion when I was a kid in elementary school, middle school, high school, after school, you know, being a man, trying to make it in this world, 18 years old and up, all of my early 20s. 28 is like, yo, man, you know, I'm not buying it, you know. My sister was definitely not buying it. She came over. But yeah, I'll get to that. Uh, so we bounced around from a lot of different households, and you know, I got pictures on my Facebook page. And my Facebook is Met for More Than This with the number 4. So Met number 4 more than this, THANTHIS. I'll try to post it in the YouTube video link or whatever. But and you can see all my pictures and stuff. But yeah, I'm an open book. I'll always have. Like I'm not really one to like shy away from the camera or anything. Like I know I'm not like the best looking or whatever. I'm getting older and yeah, whatever. But I just put it out there because I know my life is a testimony, and I you know, growing up in the streets like me and my sister did, with like no supervision, nobody there to like mentor you and lead you into the right direction and guide you into doing the right thing. You just kind of figure it out on your own. And I remember one time me and my sister was just running and playing, and some lady told us to shut up, that we were being too loud. And we're like, what? Like, we're outside. Like, we're outside. We can be loud outside. I mean, we're outside. You know, like, we didn't understand why somebody way over there in an apartment building on, like, the 4th floor was screaming at us. Like, there's a whole bunch of kids outside, and all the kids are screaming and playing and yelling, you know. But, I don't know. I think my sister said something smart back to her, because my sister was my older sister, and she looked out for me. So, initially, she looked out for me, you know. But she also bullied me, and she also got me jumped, and she also caused a lot of problems for me. And it became so bad that I became suicidal at an early age. I think around 3rd or 4th grade, it was the first time I tried to commit suicide. And now being 40 years old, I could never imagine a 3rd or a 4th grader wanting to hang themselves from a rope and kill themselves. That life would be that bad for them, you know, in America. But that's how I felt, you know, and it was really, really heartless, bullying, and it wasn't just inside of the home, it was outside of the home, so there was no escape from it, you know. And if you can't escape it, you don't know how to escape it. I never thought about running away, because where's I going to run to? I didn't have uncles, aunts, I didn't have family members. My dad kidnapped us from our mother, you know. And when I met my sister, it's because my dad went to Mexico and kidnapped her. My uncles, my dad's brothers, tracked down. They found my mother. She was working at a bar, and they found out that she was living in a hotel, and she left my sister there in the hotel, and she had like an older kid who was only like maybe 10, 11, 12 years old babysitting my sister. So she was just running around crazy in the hotel, you know, not staying in the hotel room. She was like running through the halls and stuff. So she was already, you know, without supervision as well. But she was more so than I was, because at least I was in America, and I was like with my dad's girlfriend, and that was before we started going to babysitters. Like once he kidnapped my sister and moved to Columbus, that's when we started going to people's houses and got split up in different households. Like one time I was with a black family, they beat me, they didn't feed me. I'm not even lying, like, you know. And when my dad found out they beat me, like, I just know when I came home, my dad was like, you stink, you took a shower? And I'm like, no, they didn't let me take a shower because they said the water bill or whatever. They didn't let me eat because they said you never gave them money to eat. They literally gave me crumbs, you know, and they were really mad about that. Like, if they ate a sandwich and they took off, like, the crust, they were, like, mad that they had to give that to me. They definitely didn't want to, and I always was locked up in a room. It was torture, you know, so, like, I definitely identify with, you know, child trafficking victims, people who were, like, treated really bad, because that's how I grew up, you know, and it's not a lie. But it makes you not trust anybody, you know. You can't trust nobody no matter what, and you definitely don't trust people who are nice to you, because when we were younger, that's how they reeled us in, you know what I mean? And one time me and my sister were at a babysitter, and the guy was molesting her. She went and tried to hide under the bed, and he went under the bed and tried to molest her. And his girlfriend, I ran and hid in the closet, and she was in the closet molesting me. And this happened literally soon as my dad dropped us off. He dropped us off. They shut the door, locked it, and then they started chasing us into the bedroom. And she got my underwear all the way down to my ankles. And I don't know how far he got with my sister under the bed, but we were both trying to fight it off. We didn't know what was going on. We were young. We kind of thought it was a game at first because we were kids, but we didn't like that they were touching our private parts, you know what I'm saying? And all I know is my dad came back banging on the door. So I don't know if he like went out and like just before he got to the end of the hallway, the Holy Spirit was talking to him, or if he actually went outside the apartment and looked in the windows and seen what was going on. But he seemed to have known what was going on, because when he started banging on the door, they all got frightened and they hurry up and tried to get out of the room. So they left the room, and I tried to pull my underwear up, and my underwear was all tied up in like a rope, like just like this, like, so I couldn't even put my underwear on because it was all roped up, you know. And, you know, I guess they opened the door. My dad said, nah, I don't, you know, I'm not going to have you guys babysit them. You know, forget it. I don't know if he let them keep the money or how that worked. I don't know. I was a kid. But I know he came back to the bedroom, and me and my sister were still trying to figure out our clothing situation. We were trying to still get our clothes back on. That's how quick they attacked us. I mean, they were predators. They were pedophiles. And this was on the west side of Columbus. It was disgusting. You know what I mean? Fortunately, from what I can remember, that was the only time. The other time I had a weird situation was with my dad's girlfriend, Brenda. My dad was at work. She made me wear like these really skimpy underwears, like these Speedo underwears, and she was taking photographs of me. And I was very uncomfortable. I told her I didn't want to do it. She made me go out, like, dress up, and I don't know. She's just creepy. But later on, I found out, like, she's just a pedophile type of woman, you know, like, I hate to say that, but it's true. And she even had a boyfriend named Shannon, and he was like 2 years younger than me. So if that tells you anything, you know, at that time, she was in her 20s, and I was like a third or fourth grader, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there was, and I didn't like it. I tried to tell my dad. She had the pictures, and she was like, oh, he wanted me to do this. And I'm like, no, I did not. Like, I'm a kid. And why would a little kid say, hey, buy me some skimpy underwear so you can take photographs of me and I'll pose for you? Seriously? Like, no, that's disgusting. So anyways, I'm sorry. Like, I'm kind of getting worked up over, I try to like block out like most of my life, because I just had a really very crappy life. And yeah, so anyways, she began to bully me a lot. My sister, she tried to get buddy with my sister, because my sister was coming into her teenage years. So Brenda was trying to identify like, yeah, I'm cool, and she was always trying to be like the cool mom, or what, like stepmom or whatever. But it was weird for me, because when I first met her, she lived in Channelway Apartments on the east side, like in Columbus and Reynoldsburg area. And that's where she was trying to like molest me, I guess. I mean, she didn't actually physically touch me like that, but she was trying to, when she was like putting the clothes on me and trying to adjust my clothing to make me model for her. It's just creepy stuff. Can you imagine a man with your daughter who's in 3rd or 4th grade, and he's making her wear skimpy clothes like bathing suit bikinis so he could take pictures of her? That's a pedophile. You know what I'm saying? So she's definitely a pedophile. She can't get out of that. She likes dating younger guys, and the last guy she was with, Shannon, he committed suicide. And I tried to commit suicide too when I was around her. So she really did a number on me. But not only that, what they do is they lie on you. So when I try to say, like, tell my story to my dad and the people, school or whatever, they lie. They say, oh, he's just lying, he's making it up. And the adults believe the adults. My dad believed her, you know? And so then I became outcasted. She like labeled the food in the refrigerator. I wasn't allowed to eat food. I wasn't old enough to have a job. I wasn't like 15 or 16 where I could start working. Like, I was a kid, you know? And my dad was like, well, you're going to have to figure it out. And I'm like, well, Dad, what I do, I can't work. How am I going to get money to feed myself? He's like, you just got to figure these things out for yourself. I'm not always going to be around for you. So my dad neglected me big time. And, you know, he's dead, so I'm not going to, like, you know, rag on him or whatever. We made peace before he died. But the reason I bring all this up is because it created dissension in the family. You know, even though me and my sister were kidnapped and Brenda was like the stepmom, or she was the motherly figure, and then she had her kids, Gino and Nikolai, they have absolutely no contact with me to this day. They've been brainwashed and mind controlled to hate me. They judge me, they criticize me, they talk behind my back, they bully me. This happened all the way up until my dad's death. While my dad was dying, after he died, they did this to me. They cremated him. I asked them not to cremate him. I said, we'll figure out the money to have a funeral. I want to honor my dad. He became a Christian before he died. We don't believe in cremation. They completely disregarded everything. My brother Gino set up a GoFundMe account and blew all the money on partying and getting drunk and bringing home girls every day. Like, they're so sinful. They live in sin so much. I try to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to them, and they just hate me. They hate me to no end. So I've been outcasted in every single place I've been throughout my whole life. And it's okay, because I understand now. I understand that we will be persecuted like Christ, but it's okay, because there's a better place for us. Heaven awaits us. God loves the broken. He loves the people that have my story. There was no hope for me. I tried to murder Brenda one night because of this. Nobody believed me that she was like being creepy towards me and like looking at me with sexual eyes. And she didn't just do it to me. Like, she did it to like my friends that were my age. She was lusting after them. You know what I mean? Like, people don't understand, like, when you watch pornography and when you sin, you're opening doors to demons to come into your body, to your temple. The temple that has to be made pure for the Holy Spirit to dwell in. The Holy Spirit is pure. It doesn't want to dwell in a temple that is corrupted. And you corrupt it by the decisions and choices you make by sinning, whether knowingly or unknowingly. The demons don't care. The demons don't care if they trick you to open the door or if you actually open the door and invite them in. They don't care. If the door is open, they're coming in. They're spirits without bodies, without vessels. So they want to experience life in the body so they can possess people. And that's why some people got legions of demons in them. So some people may have just one or two demons, but some people have tons and tons of demons in them. So anyways, you know, I had a rough childhood. I was bullied in the home, outside of the home. Like I said, my sister would get me jumped. My sister would go to school and be like, that's not my brother. He's lying. It's just some weird kid who's jealous that I'm popular and he wants to be popular too. Yeah, my sister was extremely popular. She was a cheerleader. She dated a lot of guys and was very promiscuous, and it's probably not her fault because she was molested as a kid, so I don't judge her. I love my sister, but she was evil, and she tried to corrupt me to be evil. She tried to tell me how to be more evil, and she was hanging out with people in gangs and trying to get me to be cool with the gang members. And, you know, she corrupted me a lot because I wasn't like her, and I guess she felt sorry that I wasn't like her, that I was like nerdy or holy or pure or whatever, however they made me feel. Like, that's how they made me feel. They made me feel like I was a nerd, I was a geek, I was a dork, that I wasn't cool, that just everything about me was just lame. And that tears you apart as a kid. As a kid, children are so sensitive. Children don't know anything about, you know, deception and this world being a lie. Like, they cling on to what you say. Like, if you say, hey, I'm gonna be there on Friday to take you out for ice cream, and you completely blow them off and don't call them, they're hurt. Their feelings are, their dreams are shattered. It affects them so much. Now, in this day and age, it's different. You know, maybe you get thicker skin because you go through it. how you're raised, but it's just not right. I mean, you have to be gentle with everybody. You have to speak delicately and try not to hurt nobody's feelings. Like, I know that now, and I'm trying hard to be very aware of how I speak and interact with people. And it's hard because sometimes you're just having a bad day, and it's like, as much as you want to be in a good mood, you just can't. Like, it's just a heavy negative energy on you, and you're just in a funk about it. You just want to get out of it, but you really can't. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of paint that picture, like, so you guys could kind of get familiar with, like, who I am and stuff. Like, my sister was like the first rapper in the family. Like, I remember she was writing a rap, and I was like, oh, I think I could do that. And she inspired me to be a rapper, a recording artist. And so I remember watching Bone Thugs and Harmony as a kid on TV. And I remember him talking about the Ouija board. And I got a Ouija board, and I started playing with the Ouija board. And I had it, like I told you, I ended up running away, actually, when I was like 15 or 16. It didn't work out because it was like a really big task to like be an adult at that age and try to pay bills and, you know, pay for an apartment. And I had a roommate, and we lived in a studio apartment, and it was still tough to make the bills, to pay the bills. And he really didn't have any intention. I think his intention was to fail so he can go back home to his family. But when I left, I remember Brenda looked at me. He was like, "You're too young to leave." And my dad was like, "Who cares? Go, get out of here." My dad had no reservations about it whatsoever. He could care less. Actually, he was happy because I was a burden. He definitely made me feel like a burden my whole life. He made me and my sister both feel like a burden. They labeled the food in the refrigerator so we couldn't eat the food. It had names on the food, on the milk, the food. It was tough, okay? And my dad was like, "Look, you got friends at school. Go home with them and see if you could raid the refrigerator and eat food. You know, just tell them that you don't got no food." My neighbor, my best friend, Charles Baldwin, he's actually how I got the nickname Ilion. But at that time, I spelled it Illeon, and he spelled it Illion because he was like a metaphoric rapper from Connecticut, but he was living with his aunt, and I believe she was Christian. I don't know, like, they didn't really voice it outside of their household, but I knew that he had a very strict aunt, and she made sure to keep him out of the streets, which is a blessing because he turned out to be a really good guy. We don't talk anymore because, I don't know, like, he judged me a lot, you know, so whatever. But everybody judged me. I mean, that whole neighborhood, Independence Village that I grew up in Reynoldsburg, they judged me. I got jumped and beat up there almost every day. When I went to Worthington Park Elementary on the north side, I got jumped and beat up a lot. One time I was getting chased by these kids, and I ran all the way home, and they chased me all the way home. It was like 3 or 4 guys. And you know, I don't know why. Like, I remember I sit on the bus, and some people would just start throwing things at the back of my head. Like, I was the kid that got the wedgies pulled up on them, and I got bullied. Like, I am not even playing with you. And it has not stopped. To this day, I still get bullied. I still get treated horribly by people. And I never understood why. Like, now I get it. Like, okay, Jesus, it's because of you. It's Jesus' fault. Like, not that that's a bad thing, but he had his hand on my life. You know, my grandmother wanted my mom to have an abortion. I was never supposed to be born, and they put a curse on me. She put a curse on me and my father because my father kidnapped me. And then once my father kidnapped my sister, he really got more cursed because my grandmother practices Santeria, and he even walked in on the room one time and she had the cross hanging upside down. She was burning the Jesus cross, but I think I said that in the last video. So I try not to repeat things if I can remember not to. But just so you know, like, witchcraft, sorcery, like, all of that stuff was very prevalent throughout my mom's background. I'm not so sure about my father's background. Like, I try to connect with my uncles and stuff, but they're pretty heartless and cold too. Like, they never tried to, like, bridge a gap with us and meet us. And as nephews and nieces, like, you want a connection with your family. Like, I try to connect with my nephews, but I know that their mother, my sister, you know, people speak bad about people, and people just believe it because they never get to meet you. So my nephews never really got to know me or anything, so they just got to hear all these horrible things that my sister said, and they believe it as truth. Hopefully they're old enough now and they've seen enough flaws in her character to know that she's not perfect, and to know that there's a high potential that she probably fabricated a lot of the stories about me, which I'm almost 99% sure that she did. I don't judge her, I love her, but I'm just telling my testimony, and I'm just giving my life story. I could die tomorrow, I could die today, so it'd be cool for me to leave something behind for somebody, anybody, and maybe it'll help them, because maybe somebody who's watching this was molested as a child, or neglected as a child, or abused and bullied as a child, and they probably don't know how they're going to get through it. I didn't. You know, I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I constantly thought about suicide, and tried to commit suicide 3 times in my life. Maybe 4. I think before I met my wife, I was actually about to electrocute myself, because I tried hanging 3 times and that didn't work. And I had other options. Like, I was thinking, like, I'll overdose, I'll shoot myself in the head. Like, I was planning it, you know. But for some reason, initially the first 3 times it just didn't work out. Like, Brenda took me down off the line when we was living in Worthington off of Allview Boulevard. I was getting ready to hang myself in the basement. They had me stay in the basement. My sister got a room upstairs next to my dad and his girlfriend. They put me in the basement. So just so you know, like, the bullying, the being outcasted and being treated like crap never stopped for me, ever. It was constant. There was no good days. And when a good day came, it was a fake day. You know what I mean? Like my birthday or Christmas or something. But 9 times out of 10, we didn't get Christmas gifts. We did get birthday gifts, but it wasn't like nothing fancy or nothing, because my dad was poor. Well, he led us to believe he was poor, but he always had a ton of jewelry, had motorcycles, all kinds of cars. So I just, you know, that's between him and God. I prayed for him when he was on his deathbed. I pray that Christ receives him, and I hope he makes it to heaven. But I definitely know that he has to review his life, and he has to review how he treated people here, especially his own family. And I'm sure he doesn't feel great about it. Some people don't realize how crappy of a person they are. Like, I didn't realize how crappy of a person I was. Every day I'm reminded, though, because I get in road rage incidences where people cut me off and people try to get out the car and fight me, and out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? So it's still, now I understand it. Like, there's people on YouTube that think it's a very sophisticated game of gang stalking by the government. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's spiritual. I think it's demonic activity that's going on. I know for sure it is. But anyways, the first time I tried to kill myself, I told my sister, she laughed at me, said, "You're a coward, you won't do it." And I'm glad she said that, because that, I was thinking about maybe not trying to hang myself. But when she said that and she looked at me and laughed at me and walked away, I was like, F this world, I'm done. And I jumped off the washer and I'm choking. I didn't snap my neck, so I knew I wasn't dead, and I was struggling, and now I realize, oh, this is a mistake. I'm hanging. I don't like this. I can't breathe. I'm panicking. I'm failing, or whatever that thing is, like flopping around or whatever. And I guess she went upstairs and told Brenda, and Brenda came downstairs and pop, 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 because it was a clothing line that was stapled to the wood. So I just needed a little bit more weight, and boom. And because she was heavier than me, she weighed more than me. I was probably like 60 pounds, you know, and she's probably like 130 pounds. That's like 200 pounds of pressure. Boom. All the staples snapped out. She took it off my neck. Oh baby, please, I can't believe you're doing this. You know, for your birthday, I'm gonna get you this, and this. Birthday came, nah, nothing. So I was, not that I cared, but you know, as a kid, you gotta think, like, as a little kid, that's everything, you know. Somebody's actually cares about me now. Somebody actually wants to get to know me and see who I am as a person and love me. I just wanted to be loved. That's all I wanted, was validation, love, and acceptance. And I never got that. I didn't get it from my sister. I didn't get it from Brenda. I didn't get it from my dad. I didn't get it at school. I didn't get it from anybody. And I grew up this way, you know? So when we moved to Independence Village, it was like a step above, you know, where we was living before. And like I said, we didn't have free lunches or nothing. We just didn't eat at school because my dad just never remembered to give us money. And if he did, it was like, here's 75 cents. Like, my dad was the king of, here's $1 and some quarters. Go to Wendy's, you know. So we grew up on Wendy's. We grew up on a dollar menu. I'm sure a lot of people growing up on the dollar menu now, so it's okay. You'll get through it. Just pray before you eat, because they're genetically modifying all the food, and there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on. You got to pray before you put shampoo, soap, conditioners on your body, because there's cancerous chemicals in that. You got to pray even if you just took a shower with water, because there's fluoride in the water. And the big lie is like, oh, this is to prevent tooth decay. But that's this deception. They don't care about your teeth. You think they care about your teeth? You think they care so much about your teeth that they want to put fluoride in the water? But people who actually spray fluoride and use and work with fluoride, they're in full hazmat suits, covered from head to toe. Their skin, nothing can touch the fluoride. But they're so worried about your teeth that they want to put it in the drinking water and then in your showering water. So if you'll notice in the rich neighborhoods, you'll see that they have their own water tower in their backyard, and they got their own water filtration systems, because they're very aware of what's going on. And if you're poor, oh well, they don't care. It's all about me, 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 me right now. We're living in the end times. April 9th is next week, and the Jewish people feel like their Messiah will be revealed by the April 9th elections, or around the time of the April 9th elections. Jared Kushner is doing the peace treaty. He has the 666 building off 5th Avenue in New York. So they're suspecting he could be the Antichrist. Everybody definitely thinks that the Pope is the false prophet. So I guess it's just the beast that's to come on the scene after the Antichrist, which is like the beast system, and really it's Satan. So yeah, it's crazy. It's going to get worse. But just to continue with my testimony, I remember playing with the Ouija board and all that stuff. And when I couldn't make it on my own, when I ran away, I came back to my dad's house, 2961 Hubbardton Place in Independence Village. I still remember it. And my dad wasn't there. He was living with a girlfriend, so there was no electricity, no water, nothing. The house, he was barely just paying the rent, but for storage, because all of his sign equipment was in the garage and the basement and all that stuff. And so I was there, and I had a karaoke machine that didn't have no batteries in it. I did get that for my birthday from Brenda. She was very generous for that. She bought me that so I could start rapping, and because I like to do that. And I think she got me an In Vogue CD. In Vogue for a boy? Come on, you know. I wanted like MC Hammer or LL Cool J, you know, like I didn't want that, you know, but I kind of felt like she bought it for my sister, because she got her another CD, but she just gave it to me. But I listened to it, whatever. But I'm taking a break from work right now because it's crazy and they're demanding a lot of me. And sometimes I just shut down when it's just too much for me to do. It's just a habit, you know. But it's not a good habit, I guess. Anyway, but when I was in my room, I remember Satan spoke to me through my karaoke machine. And he was talking to me. And it scared me because I got up and looked and there was no batteries in it. And I knew we didn't have no electricity at the time. And the red light came on. So I'm like, how is this turning on without any batteries or electricity? And when Satan was speaking to me, he had a very dark, deep, scary voice. And it scared me because it was like in the middle of the night. He woke me up. And I remember it was roaches and stuff. Like always was doing like this because we had bugs and stuff in the house. Like it was just an abandoned house. And I opened the portal there unknowingly with the Ouija board. But he said, I'm going to make you a famous rapper. I'm going to make all of your dreams come true. That's what Satan said to me. And ironically enough, by the age of 19, I was homeless. And I asked to sleep on my friend's floor in the kitchen because he already had people living there. So he had a roommate. And then he had like 2 guys sleeping in the living room. And so there was no room for me, so I actually had to sleep on the linoleum floor in the kitchen, and I was very grateful for it. So I'm not complaining. Thank you, Douglas Thompson, aka Misery. And I heard some things about him, so I hope he strays away from the path that he's on now, now that he's out of prison. But good dude, because before he went to prison, he was doing some bad things, and he had me tag along with him, and I didn't even know that he was robbing these places with a note, but he never got me affiliated with all that. But I didn't know anyways. Like, he was a gentleman about it and didn't tell me. He just used me for transportation and stuff. But he did like 8 years on that. So if he wanted to, I'm sure he could have, you know, incriminated me on that. But I really didn't know what was going on. Honestly, man, I've been pretty like naive and gullible for a good majority of my life. Like, I think I just had like a good heart, and I just genuinely want to believe that there's good in all people, even if they're bad people. I still feel like, well, maybe because I'm giving them a chance, that they'll rise to the occasion and show that they are a good person, that they do have a good heart. But nah, that doesn't happen. I was a sucker, and I just got pulled into a lot of stuff because people are devious, and people scheme and plot, and they look for people who are unsuspecting and gullible and naive, you know. So I had to start learning, you know, even like at that age, like I wasn't really acclimated to the street life of being like a gangster or a thug. Like, that just was stuff that I got pulled into because it was all around me and it was for survival. So I felt like, you know, even though these people are bad, he gave me half of his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, I know he raped this girl Nicole down the street from me. Talk about this guy Javon Reynolds. He also murdered his best friend, but he's nice. He gave me some money so I can get some lunch. And one time some guy was bullying me and beating me up, and he went and beat him up for me. Javon Reynolds went and beat this guy Chris Condon up for me. And I never knew why this dude Chris Condon was picking on me. Like, I literally would just get picked out to get bullied, and I never understood why. I never talked to people. Like, I never associated with nobody. I never gossiped. I just didn't do that stuff. But I seen that everybody did do that stuff. But I noticed my dad, he wasn't a gossiper. He wasn't initially. Now, towards the latter years of his life, as he started becoming more Americanized and wasn't like the foreigner who couldn't speak English, once he started becoming Americanized or whatever, he did start taking on those personality traits, just like I did, because we were in that environment for so long. So basically what I'm trying to tell you guys, there really was no hope for me, okay? Like, at the age of 18, my friend had a near-death experience when he was like 21. I was like 17, and he gave a prophecy for all 4 of his friends. Charles Baldwin, which was my best friend, Ryan Baer, who was also a very good friend of mine, and this guy named Lawrence, I can't remember his last name, and Kevin Nisselbeck. And he didn't want to tell me my prophecy to the end. I was kind of bummed out about it. But he said, hey, Ryan and Charles, you guys are going to get into an accident in 7 days or 7 weeks from now, but I don't think it'll be 7 months. And if you're on drugs, you're going to die. Well, that day, which was actually 7 days exactly after that moment, I was driving Jenny Simcox's car from Pickerington. She had a convertible. My dad happened to drive by, seeing me drive her car, came, got me, snatched me out of the car, grounded me. I had drugs on me that day. So if he didn't do that, I would have got everybody high, and they would have gotten in a car accident and died. So it was just crazy, you know. But I think this video is starting to slow down a little bit. I'm not really sure, but I noticed that there's a delay going on. So I'm going to just wrap it up, all right? At the age of 18, after going to jail and all this stuff. Oh, yeah, my prophecy was I was going to go to jail for murder at the age of 18. And I was in a situation where I had a gun pointed on somebody. I was going to kill them. But I remembered that prophecy. And even though I did try to pull the trigger, it wouldn't go. So that guy was supposed to die, but he didn't die. And I was supposed to go to jail for murder to like my 30s or whatever. That didn't happen. And so my life changed, you know. But I was still lost and not knowing. I did get baptized as a Christian, and that did start changing things. Like, I started thinking about stuff a little bit more. And I'm going to do a second part to this, okay? So I'm going to stop there at 18 years old.